Today I'm going to share with you 5 things that I wish I knew about lilacs. When we first moved into this property, we discovered that we had some lilacs on it and they're gorgeous. But there are a few things that I didn't realize that I needed to know before caring for these shrubs. And today I'm going to share them with you. The first thing I wish I knew about lilacs is that deer love them. They absolutely love them. I love lilacs so much because of the lilacs that we had on our property and the scent that they provide in the spring and the beautiful blooms. I wanted to add some more to our property, and I did not think of it anything. I thought for sure that the deer don't care for them because they weren't eating the lilacs that were already established and they're like 15 feet tall. So I thought I can just plant them and not have to worry about the deer whatsoever. But I was absolutely wrong. Because those plants were small, the deer were coming after them, and one of them they cut down to about, I don't know, like 4-inch nub, and I had to search for it to find it. So now I have to protect all my lilacs until they are big enough for the deer to not be able to devour them completely. The reason why the deer kept coming after them is because they are tender and young. The difference is that the established lilacs have woody branches on them, so the deer don't care for those much. And the tender parts on the lilac are all high above their reach, and this is the reason why those established lilacs weren't being touched by the deer. Maybe they were going around and browsing around the circumference of the lilac and catching all the little low branches, and I probably didn't notice that, and I didn't think much of it because the top of the lilac was blooming, but the sides weren't. And that is because of the second thing that I wish I knew about lilacs, and that is lilacs bloom on old wood. So thankfully, I didn't do the mistake of pruning my lilacs later into the season and causing my lilacs to lose their blooms. So if you are new to growing lilacs, they do bloom on old wood. What that means is the branches have to harden up in order for the lilacs to start producing blooms on them. So the first year branches are not going to produce any blooms, and perhaps even the second year branches might not produce any blooms for you. It depends on how hardy they are. So if you do want to prune lilacs, you're going to prune them right after they are done blooming. You don't want to bloom them in the middle of the summer or in the fall. That's absolutely wrong. You will be pruning them in the spring, but again, right after they bloom. And the third thing I wish I knew about lilacs is that just because lilacs are drought tolerant once established does not mean that they don't need any water whatsoever. That can't be farther from the truth. In fact, if you are going through a drought period, or if you live in a dry environment, you're going to need to give your lilacs a little bit of supplemental watering. Because if you don't, they're going to be susceptible to diseases and to powdery mildew and to borers. So to prevent that from happening, you need to water them. And the fourth thing I wish I knew about lilacs is how important it is to prune them. So if you leave lilacs all on their own, what happens is that they start growing a thick mat of branches, and that thick mat over there, what it does is that it harbors insects, and it's going to cause the plant to be susceptible to diseases and to powdery mildew. So what you're going to need to do, other than just pruning it after it blooms, is to make sure to have the lilac shrub aerated. So you're going to prune all the little spindly branches on the inside of the lilac, and if there are any branches that are crisscrossing or any dead branches or diseased branches, you need to take these out. And that's going to keep your lilacs healthy, and it's going to prolong their lifetime, and it's going to cause them to bloom a lot more for you, because the dead branches, the semi-dead branches and the branches that are kind of sickly, they're not going to produce tons of flowers as the healthy branches would. So if you prune the lilac in this manner, it's going to allow a lot more fruit production on it, and therefore it's going to give you a lot more flowers. And the fifth thing I wish I knew about lilacs is how important it is to treat them. When we first moved in, I didn't treat my lilacs whatsoever. I only treated my fruit trees. And by treat, I mean spraying with organic insecticides and fungicides. And this is super important. Just as you would care for your fruit trees, it is really important to care for your lilacs in the same manner because they are susceptible to borers and to fungal diseases. So at the same time you spray your fruit trees, you're going to need to spray your lilacs as well. And also it's super important to fertilize them as well so that they can put on healthy green growth and produce lots of flowers for you. So these are the 5 things that I wish I knew about lilacs. And here are a few bonus fun facts about lilacs. One is that lilacs are the New Hampshire state plant. This is super fun for me because I love lilacs and we live in New Hampshire. And the second bonus fun fact about lilacs is that they come in an assortment of varieties. Now there are reblooming lilacs that you can choose from. There are also lilacs of all sorts of colors. There's the common lilac, which is the purple lilac that we have, which is the state flower for New Hampshire. There's the Japanese lilacs, and those are small trees and they have white blooms and they bloom a little bit later than the common lilac. You also have the dwarf Korean lilacs, which are going to be a lot smaller than your common lilac, and they have kind of a violet purplish blooms, and those are ideal for small gardens, and you probably can also grow them in large containers. And then there's the Preston lilac, and those are a hybrid between the common lilac and other varieties of lilacs, which allows them to have varying colors of blooms. So you have whites, you have some that are a mixture of whites and purples or lilac, and some that are blue. So it makes it super fun to not just have only the purple lilacs that we are used to. And it's also super exciting that they now have the reblooming lilacs that allows us to have a little bit more lilac in our season and allows us to enjoy that beautiful fragrance. If you want to learn more about plants, check out this video over here.